Hi guys, welcome back to my channel for another video this week. I have teased this in past videos, but today I am bringing you an extreme DIY kitchen makeover. So I have somehow already lived in my apartment for like a year and I just re-signed my lease, so I thought I might as well just upgrade my kitchen. It was really like the last space in my apartment left to DIY. The only upgrade I had made to the kitchen previously was doing the countertops. I covered them in marble contact paper. I will insert a photo right here of what it looked like before I started any DIY projects at all, when the countertops were still in their natural state, I guess you could call them. But I decided to just go all out and do the rest of it. So I did three main projects: peel and stick wallpaper, peel and stick backsplash, and then a like DIY floor situation to cover the very like grungy looking vinyl floors that I had before. In terms of the wallpaper, I just want to say a big thank you to Natallie of Cuckoo Walls on Etsy. She is responsible for my wallpaper back here as well as the wallpaper in my bathroom, and she was nice enough to send me the wallpaper for my kitchen project. So thank you so much to Natallie. I will have her linked below, and I will have all the products that I'm using in this DIY linked below as well. Before I jump right into home improvement mode, just remember to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more home decor videos like this. Thank you guys in advance for watching, and let's jump right into the video so I can show you a DIY rental kitchen makeover.
Let's talk it over. Let's talk it over one more time. Let's talk it over. Let's talk it over one more time. Let's talk it over. Let's talk it over one more time. Let's talk it over. Let's talk it over one more time. Let's talk it over. Let's talk it over one more time. Let's talk it over.
Welcome back to another installment of putting up removable wallpaper with Carrie. When I've done this in the past, I've always started at the left corner and worked right, but this time around I'm doing the opposite because, as you can see, the left-hand corner has all of the cabinets, and so I wanted to just do the easier side first, so I'm starting with the right side. So similar to how I always start out, I'm using a level to kind of just see what I'm working with in terms of the straightness, and then once I had an idea of where I need to position the paper, I rolled a piece back and attached it to the wall at the top. Since the wall I'm working with has this piece that kind of comes out, it gives me this edge here, and so after I had attached the paper to the top and it was kind of just hanging there, I used the level on the edge of the paper to just make sure that everything was straight. Once I had it where I wanted it to be, it was pretty much smooth sailing here. I've done this now a good handful of times, and the paper Natallie uses is definitely my favorite to work with. It's so easy and seamless to apply on the wall, and so after I peeled it back, I just kept using either my hand or a book to even out everything, working from the middle out, and then rolled back more of the backing and kind of kept just working down the wall. This part went very, very fast and was super easy. If I thought doing the right side of this paper was easy, the left side humbled me up real quick because it was not easy at all, especially because there was cabinets and things there. And I don't know if there might have been a more simple way to do this or whatever, but I clearly did not do that because it was not easy. First of all, I was standing on my kitchen counter, which had not a lot of room. Then I had to line it up not only with the corner, but with the top, and make sure that the pattern was going to match up and not have any overlap or any space in between. And then I was dealing with the fact that the cabinet was right there and the paper kept wanting to roll out the side. And so it was definitely an experience, but after I got everything where I wanted it to be and then got a little savvy and figured out what I needed to do to make things go smoothly, it wasn't so bad. So basically, after I had rolled the wallpaper onto the first part of the wall above the cabinet, I stopped it, attached it as far down as it would go, and then I used my box cutter, utility knife, whatever you want to call it, to slice the area of the paper that was touching the top of the cabinet. Once I got to the edge of the cabinet, I stopped and then continued on, if that makes any sense at all. After I attached it to the wall next to where the cabinets were, then I again had to attach the wallpaper back onto the underneath part of the cabinet and above where my sink kind of backsplash marble area is. Then again, I sliced the wallpaper both horizontally and vertically as far down as I needed to hit the underneath part of the countertop. I feel like I really could not be explaining this any worse and could be probably using the more formal terms for all these different things, but I really hope that you're able to understand what I'm saying here. Okay, and then finally I was on to the very last part of attaching the wallpaper. And with my kitchen specifically, weirdly the cabinet ends before the wall, so I have this extra wall space. It's probably like a few inches wide, so I wanted to cut a little bit more wallpaper than I needed so that it could kind of fit back in that crevice. And then from there it was pretty straightforward to just attach the piece of wallpaper to the wall. After I finished attaching all the major pieces, I went back in and cleaned up all the edges, and then we were done with the wall. It was definitely the hardest removable wallpaper project I've done so far, but I'm really happy with how it turned out, so it was all worth it and a good learning experience for me. Okay, to say there is a learning curve with using this stuff would be a major understatement and would be me doing you guys a major disservice, because while objectively it is very easy to use and pretty simple once you get the hang of it, at the same time it is really not, and I definitely struggled my way through it, especially at the beginning. So per the directions from the brand, they recommend to cut off a side of the tile that you're working with to make it flush with the wall and starting there. You don't want to just start with the piece that's in the box, because even though it looks like it's ready to go, it's actually not, because there are pieces that aren't really tile there that if you look really closely say attach here, and they're just like a plasticky material. So similar to my wallpaper here, I guess I decided to start on the right side and work left. Knowing that most things in my apartment here aren't straight, I started again with my level and lined it up with the bottom of the cabinets so that I would know kind of how to angle it ever so slightly. After I had gotten the piece where I wanted it and knew it was straight, I just used my hand to smooth it out. Unlike the wallpaper, I didn't really feel like I needed a book or a squeegee, but if you wanted to be extra cautious, you definitely could use something instead of your hand. After I had gotten that down, I just started attaching additional pieces. This part was probably the easiest to do because luckily the sizes of these tiles were exactly the same size as the piece of wall that was underneath my cabinet. I was just able to attach each piece using the guidelines that each tile had on the left side. The way the brand does it is actually pretty simple and straightforward. They just leave 3 empty spots for you to attach the next piece of wallpaper in, so all you really have to do is line up the faux grout. I tended to start with the middle one just because if I had that straight, the other ones were more likely to be straight. And once I got to the left corner here and ran out of space to put just the full tile, which made things very easy at the beginning, I knew I would have to cut a piece to fit in this section. I don't know what happened because I thought I measured correctly and I ended up not, because I had cut a piece to put there and it didn't end up working. And so I just got annoyed and frustrated and didn't want to waste any more time worrying about that. So I moved on to another piece of the wall and just saved that for later. Then once I moved on to this spot that had the outlet, I tried cutting out a piece for the outlet first from the tile piece that I was using, but I later learned that this probably wasn't the best way to go about things and that it was much easier to attach it to the wall first and then use an X-Acto. As you can see, it's not 100% perfect. I ended up having to cut off additional pieces from the sides, and in some places I cut off too much so you could see the wall underneath it, but from far away it's not super obvious, so I didn't really mind. And again, I definitely learned a better way to do this as I kept going. But after I did that, I just kept working to the left and continuing to attach tile pieces, and then you can see me run into this weird outlet, non-outlet thing on the wall. I don't even know why it's there, and so I just attached the piece of tile to the wall first and then used my box cutter to cut around the area, just feeling out where it was first. This ended up working so much better and I was able to actually get really clean cuts, and so like I said, definitely recommend this method instead of the one I did previously. Conveniently, this whole strip has so many different things to cut out of the wall, but I had another outlet to work with. By this time, it was pretty straightforward for me, and so I just did that and then I was done with that strip. And then came the time to attach a new piece of tile that didn't have kind of the guidelines of where to put things, and so I had to just line everything up on my own. To do this, I basically estimated where I thought that the grout would line up. As you can see, to make sure that we were straight, I have this very large level ruler thing and just made sure that all the lines lined up. So once I did that, we were in business and I was able to just keep moving to the right and finishing that empty part of the wall, which again, luckily lined up with the top of my cabinet, so I didn't have to make any cuts on the top. And then came filling in all this weird white space that was behind and near the fridge. But I had bought this tile to make up the exact amount of square footage that I needed, or just slightly over, and I didn't want to waste any, and so I ended up cutting out pieces from the tile that I knew I wouldn't need. I left probably an extra inch or two, so I did that 3 times going to the left and just added them until they reached the back corner. And after working through all of that and majorly straining my arms and my neck, I got all the way to the end and was done with that part. Similar to what I did above and behind the fridge, I cut out a similar sliver that could go next to the outlet and sit behind the fridge so that the tile would look like it was just continuous. Finally, I had this leftover piece of wall that was above the backboard and above my stove. The stove is lower than the backboard, so I had more room there, and this ended up kind of just turning into a puzzle between the leftover pieces of tile that I had and between the space that I had to work with. So I just did a mix of using individual pieces and carefully placing the larger pieces that I had to make sure that I would fill up the space and not A, be wasting any tile, or B, have any white space left over. Thank God it all worked out perfectly and I literally had no material left at the end. So if I messed up at all, I really would have been screwed. And after I think 3 hours, the project was done. Alright, let me just start this off by saying I really have no idea what I was doing here. I've never done this before, and I really didn't know what I was getting myself into, and I don't even know how I ended up deciding that redoing my floors would be a good idea. This brand had a video tutorial online, and so I watched that, and I kind of just winged it from there. So I basically just started out by laying out some of the panels and seeing what I was working with in terms of how much room they were taking up and kind of what it was looking like. Since these panels do have a wood look to them, I knew that I wanted to follow the traditional wood pattern, which is where they're kind of staggered. And so I started out by laying out one piece of the flooring untouched completely, and then next to that, to get that staggered effect, I cut another one in half. This material is very interesting and very thick and high quality. So I started out by laying down a piece of cardboard. I just used the box it came in and followed the instructions that the brand had given me by measuring out the piece that I wanted, and then using this giant metal level thing that I had bought at Home Depot and a utility knife to score along the line that I had made. You don't have to cut all the way through the piece, just enough to be able to fold it in half, and then from there it kind of makes this snapping noise. It doesn't fully snap though. You basically just take your utility knife through the indent that it makes, and from there it is super easy to split the pieces in half. So that is basically the method I'm using to do this entire project, and so you'll see me just keep doing that as we go through it. So you'll see when I lay out that half piece that I cut, then I'm able to put a full plank below it. Then to the left of that, I start with a full plank and then put the other half piece below that, and that's how the staggered wood effect is created. One thing you also might notice here is that I'm not using any adhesive to stick these down, and that is one of the things that I think makes this project so renter friendly, and these tiles especially so renter friendly. You definitely could use an adhesive, and I did think about buying that like double-sided carpet tape just because it's easy enough to remove and won't do any damage later, but it's also sticky enough to keep things in place. Then when it came to this part near the stove, the plank was obviously too wide to fit there, but that was because the stove comes out further than the cabinets and the floor underneath the cabinets, so I had to measure where the stove came out to and cut a piece out of the plank in order to fit there. This was probably one of the hardest parts of doing this project, and it definitely did not come out perfectly, but I'm just using a similar method to what I showed before to cut it out. When I first tried to place the piece down after I had cut it, it didn't fit perfectly, and so I had to just kind of trim the edges a little bit more until it fit where I wanted it to, and it ended up working out. I used the same method when it came to any other kind of weirdly shaped pieces in the kitchen floor, and then for these pieces closest to the doorway, I just used the original method to cut pieces that would fit in that empty space. And obviously I'm aware it is by no means perfect, but I do think it is a pretty good solution and looks so much better than my floors before. And there you have it, my full DIY rental kitchen makeover. If I really wanted to, I definitely could have done all these projects in one day, but it would have been a lot, and just with my schedule, I split it up into 3. But including the marble contact paper I already had there, I think these things together really just elevated this rental kitchen and just made it feel so much nicer and less dated. I really did like the handles that were already there. I like the kind of retro aspect to them, and so I kept those. Consistent with that, I also really happen to like all these retro looking appliances. So I've had my KitchenAid since I was like 18. I bought this Meg toaster not too long ago, and then to round it out, I swapped out my microwave for this significantly smaller version because my other one was taking up so much counter space, and this one was not only, you know, cute, matches the theme, whatever, it also fit above my fridge, and so I gained a ton of counter space there. And that is the full kitchen makeover. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, turn on your post notifications, and I will see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.